Remember how I said on Monday, which was only 5 days ago, that I was going to be a twofer for hosting? So I'm kind of bookending this week. I started on Monday, and I'm ending on Friday, November 22nd, 2019, and I can't believe that it's been 56 years since President John F. Kennedy was assassinated. So I know most of us in this room know where we were when that tragic event happened. And enough sadness.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm Diane Gatsis Havinga. I'm your host today. And as I mentioned, the holidays are upon us. I'm sure a lot of people are going to start traveling this weekend. And some of us will be staying home. And we here at GSV-TV always try to get a step ahead of everything to try to make sure that we stay healthy, we stay fit, and we eat the right foods, but also kind of indulge. So I'm excited to welcome, of course, Juanita Kuntz from the Fitness Center.
Hello.
Helen Chung from are you from, I'm not sure. I was going to say you're a dietitian, but is it Garden Ridge? I mean.
Well, we're primarily in Garden Ridge, but we're everywhere.
We're everywhere. She's everywhere. She is everywhere.
She's needed everywhere.
And she has some goodies that she's going to share with us momentarily, and some tips. And unfortunately, our nurse practitioner and director of our employee health and wellness center is unable to come over because she had appointments with patients for some reason. I don't get that.
Right.
So I'm going to pretend
you're
to
it.
know everything there is to know about staying healthy today. So maybe you have some questions.
Yeah, like here comes the holidays, and how am I ever going to keep from gaining that 3 to 5 pounds?
Oh, that's a question for Helen. I'm talking about health.
Yeah, everybody's getting together and
Okay.
flying on airplanes, going on trains and buses. How are they going to stay well to get healthy, stay healthy to get to their families?
One of my resident volunteers would say, stay away from people. But if you can't do that, I think it's the old, let's wash our hands. And it's not just washing your hands a little bit, but making sure, hopefully it's with warm water, which I know you go into those restaurants and you go into
cold.
public bathrooms and the water isn't warm, but try to do it with warm water, soap, rub it, and sing for like the happy birthday song for twice. I thought it was only once. Twice.
No, I think it's twice.
I think it's twice.
Twice.
Yeah. So if you sing happy birthday to yourself, which sometimes people look at you when you're in the public facility, and then rinse and dry. And another thing is, I feel anyway, if they don't have any automatic faucets or paper, containers, I try to get the paper first, and then use the paper to turn off the faucet, and then open the door. And if you don't have water, then that sanitizer will work, but not as well. So, and other thoughts. I'm looking at my cheat sheet. Think of the weather when you go out, and make sure you dress appropriately.
Another thing for your immune system is to keep your immune system elevated. So if you do come in contact with germs, which you know you will, that it's built up. And how do you build up your immune system? Sleep.
Yeah.
You've got to get your sleep. Over the holidays, we stay up later, so you want to get good sleep. Number 2, you want to eat right. And that'll be you. Right. And then exercise is key to elevating your immune system, because it activates more lymphocytes and all the good things in your body that gobble up the germs and keep you from being sick.
Plus, it helps you manage stress.
Exactly. Yes. Chronic stress really depletes your immune system. Absolutely right.
And I don't want to just go on, but most of us don't drink and drive. With our residents, that's one blessing you have. You can drink all you want and stumble into your apartment. Of course, we want to stay smoke-free. Fasten those seat belts when you're in the car, especially if it's not your car. the few times I do use an Uber or a taxi, they now all have seatbelts.
Yes.
So just
Important.
because you're in someone else's car doesn't mean you should not be buckling up. Get exams and screenings if you are due for those. You know, the shingles came out with, not the shingles, but they have a new shingle shot. That, the pneumonia shot has been kind of redone and repurposed, so things like that. I'm trying to think of other shots that they're saying for.
The flu shot.
The
absolutely.
flu shot.
We should all have that by now.
Right, and it's not too late. It takes about 2 weeks, they say, for the whole thing to kick in. So if you're traveling, especially, you may want to go ahead and make sure you go to the medical center and get your flu shot. And then just briefly, it says here, eat healthy,
Yep.
stay active. So let's throw that now to Juanita.
Okay, one thing I wanted to add that you had mentioned about drinking is that most studies have been done with the younger brain in alcohol. There are more and more studies going on now with the older brain in alcohol. And they're saying, and I just pulled that up today, that if you have a drink or two, and you know when you're in your 30s and 40s, it's not, you can metabolize that very easily. But when we get into our 70s and 80s, number one, a lot of times you don't know how much you're really drinking. You know, they're doing a lot of studies on what the 12 ounces of this, you know, 12 ounces of a regular beer, that's 5% alcohol. 8 to 9 ounces of a malt liquor in a 12-ounce glass is about 7% alcohol. 5 ounces of of a wine is 12 ounces, and then about 40% of alcohol is in like 1.5 ounces of distilled spirits. So a lot of people, the amount is really not that much, and then you see what people are filling up for their glasses of beer or their liquor or that sort of thing. And number one, we don't metabolize it. Our liver does not metabolize it like it did in their 30s and 40s. So our perceived amount is not right. We're thinking we're drinking this, but we're really drinking more. And two, we just can't physically metabolize it like we did when we were younger. So, and they're also saying that blood pressure medications, in particular, can interact with the alcohol, and that could cause even more lightheadedness and dizziness from low blood pressure.
So it actually brings the blood pressure down.
Right. Yes, brings blood pressure.
Triple whammy.
It's a yeah, and you know,
I'm not
people
having
say,
you on the show.
I know. It's a depressing thought, which again, alcohol is depressive. So if you think, oh, I'm going to have a little alcohol to lift my spirits, honestly, it a little bit maybe does, but more does not. And it will interfere with that important component of keeping your immune system high. It interferes with your sleep. You think it will help you sleep, but it really disrupts your sleep patterns.
Especially, I think red wine is one of the culprits for that. But I was also reading yesterday in the Washington Post, well, actually it was Wednesday's paper, I'm a little behind, but in the food section, they were talking about apple cider and how good apple cider really should be added to your holiday meal. And there's an apple that's from Virginia called the Harrison apple. And they said that it used to be really, really, really popular in the 1800s, and then they thought it had totally disappeared. And then they rediscovered this apple and are now planting it. And they said a good bottle of apple cider, which really it's like a good bottle of wine in that sense. It goes from $15 to $20 a bottle.
Wow.
Is really ties in with the holidays, and it's very refreshing. And I went, boy, I'm wondering where I could find that, you know.
The Harrison apple cider?
Right.
Wow.
You know, you
I'm
get
curious.
the stuff in, you know, the grocery stores, but no, this was a specific, you know.
Interesting.
So that's something to think about instead of, and it's still festive, you know, because apple cider is kind of has a little bit of a fizz into it, and you can.
You could probably, well, they were saying a lot of times for drinking, like, you know, make sure you never drink on an empty stomach,
Right.
number one. Number two, if you're going to have several drinks, have one drink and then mix it up. Have some sparkling water or maybe some apple cider before you have another drink,
Right.
you know.
And
And
that
sip it, don't just guzzle.
okay, fine.
Okay, darn it.
And that also goes into one of the healthy tips was to stay hydrated.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
so that drinking that water.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be really busy next week, as I'm sure. Are you baking and cooking?
Baking, cooking, all of it.
Right? And you know, I've already laid out, okay, tomorrow, clean house. Sunday, go grocery shopping. Monday, I'm doing this. Tuesday, I'm doing
Probably see you
this.
at the shop on Sunday.
You know,
That's my plan.
Wednesday, you know,
And that's
figuring.
good to plan ahead like that, so you're not so stressed out.
Well,
Yeah,
I
there
don't
you
know
go, one of the-
about that.
One of those components. That's very smart.
But my question
plan.
to Juanita
Yes.
is, how do I fit exercise? I mean, you're saying to stay fit and be active,
Yeah.
and, you know, like, it's not in that.
It's not in your list. I know, it's at the bottom of most people's lists, you just don't have time. So actually the very best time to do it is early morning, when maybe everyone else is sleeping, that you get up and just run out for just a half-hour walk. And research is even saying even a 10-minute walk will get your metabolism going again. It also will wake you up. It reduces stress.
Yep.
So it's a very good way to start your day. Particularly, the more you have on your list, the more you need to get that exercise. But if you can't, okay, so you're just saying, oh man, I overslept today. That exercise is off the list because I'm going to be here at 8 o'clock. Well, then park farther away from the grocery store. Take the steps, not the elevator. If you're going to events, you just want to get in any kind of exercise you can throughout the day. Anything extra that you can do. Stretch out, you know, you're at the end of the day, just take time to stretch out before you get into bed. And a lot of our residents here already stretch out in bed before they start their day because they're stiff.
So wait, you mean I'm in bed,
You're in bed.
and so what am I supposed to?
What can you do?
Yes.
You're going to take your feet, you're going to point and flex, you're going to rotate.
And I'm still lying
And
down.
you're still lying down. You're going to
Okay.
rotate. You're going to just do those heel slides up to your chest. Pull it up in bed. There's a low back stretch right there. If you have the whole bed to yourself, stretch out in that X. Stretch out as far as you can. Press your heel down. Lift your elbow up. Stretch this entire side. Other side, press your heel down. Lift up, stretch that. And then just doing that will get the blood moving. So when you get on the side of your bed, your blood is already flowing up to your brain so that you don't feel lightheaded. So then sit there for a moment, maybe do some leg extensions, and then get up and out of bed.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
that's
that's.
good.
I'll have to start doing that.
Oh, it's great. And a lot of our residents do that before they get out of bed because they are lightheaded. A lot of them are on blood pressure medication. And if you just jump out of bed, that's when you're going to feel lightheaded. And if you're an athlete like you are, Diane, and your legs are very strong, if you're a runner or you are a biker, then your blood is pooled down there. So if you jump out of bed like that, the blood still does not have a chance to get up here. So athletes should be doing that stretching, getting the blood from the lower extremities. I mean, people go, oh, that's silly. It's not. I mean, just to say that your blood is constantly, throughout the body, it is. But to stand up, that lowers that blood pressure, and gravity takes it down. You just need to get it flowing.
And I would add one more thing. I always have a big glass of water right beside my bed. So even before I get out, I'm starting
when you sit up, you're starting to drink.
rehydrate. And I drink that literally before I do anything else. And
that's
help that.
exactly, I don't know, here's our dietitian, but I read in one of the health magazines, like 3 or 4 dietitians were saying, if you were to tell somebody one thing that would improve their health, what would it be? One of that was drink a big glass of water in the morning, just to get your organs moving, just to wake you up and get everything.
Yep.
Is that true?
I believe so.
Okay.
Well, we're on the same page.
Yeah.
And before I jump it over to Helen, we keep saying, Helen, you're coming.
Yeah, she's got to.
But you can also you can exercise with us on GSV-TV because we start the exercise programs at 6 a.m.
There you go.
Every morning, 7 days a week. You can, I like to say, get going at 6 a.m. daily. And then, of course, we put you to sleep and help you relax
Yes.
at the opposite end at 11 p.m. when we do our relaxation breathing
Channel
program.
6 is awesome.
So, and there you are,
Oh
Juanita.
boy,
wow.
there's
and
Annie Chioco with me.
And I also want to say, they're working out in really a very limited space.
Oh,
if,
yes.
If you haven't been
It's
down-
right here.
Yeah, so you don't need this. You don't need to go to the gym. You don't need to run outside.
But we miss you at the gym. We want you at the gym.
And so, speaking of the gym, just remind people where the gym is right
Oh,
now.
guys, I know it's the holidays, but listen, Forest View, T-level, right by where Wii Bowling is. If you Wii Bowl, you're going to pass right by us. Wii Bowling, all the exercise classes are done there just about. We have Chair Fit in Hunter's Crossing. But we have over 100 classes. Try them. You've got the kids coming. Maybe you have kids coming that are older. 18 and older can use the fitness center. So come with the kids, work out a little bit before you start eating those delicious meals that we're all going to have.
And speaking of eating,
Finally,
finally,
best
Helen.
Time of the year.
So,
Best time of the year. My favorite food ever is Thanksgiving.
so we have essentially, and Thanksgiving is late this year, so we've saved a week of not indulging,
Right.
but we still have about 4 weeks from the time Turkey Day arrives to New Year's Day, where we're going to be bombarded with
Good food.
lots and lots and lots of food and drink. So we already talk about maybe cutting back a little bit and drinking water in between, but how in the world do I not gain that ugly 10 holiday pounds that is common?
It's so common this time of the year, and people stress out so much about it. And really, my tips today are more of a holistic approach. So like my first tip is eat what you love. Because
Well, then I would be eating all the time.
Love food.
there's twofold to eat what you love. So this time of year, you're spending time with your family, you're spending time with your friends. It's a time for gathering and having a good time, not to be stressed out. Am I stress eating? Am I just pointlessly eating? What am I doing? But what your focus should be is about spending that quality time with your family, de-stressing, relaxing. So rather than focusing at the meal, up to the meal about what am I going to do? Have I worked out enough? Did I starve enough to really lead up to this holiday meal? Rather than focusing on that, focus more on being mindful about what you are eating. Eat what you love. So maybe leave the things that you feel a little meh about.
Or that you can have any day of the year.
Right.
Like salad.
Right.
Yeah.
You were talking about apple cider earlier. That's a great replacement for maybe, even eggnog. It's lighter, it's not as heavy in calories, and that's a really great option. Another thing is to, be mindful as you're kind of coming up to the table and think, okay, I've had my first plate, so I'm ready for seconds. Am I really ready for seconds, or am I just looking for something to do?
Or both.
So that, that's a time of, thinking, stop and pause. Am I eating because I'm hungry, or am I eating because I'm bored?
And it takes longer for the brain and the stomach to coincide and say, hey, you've had enough, and then it gets to the brain and you're going, oh, I guess I am a little full. So like you said, just take count to 10. What is it? They say 10 to 20 minutes before it hits the brain that you've had enough.
Right.
So stop, put your fork and spoon and knife down and visit for a while, and then drink some water and see if you really want to go back for seconds or back to the buffet.
Exactly. So I'm saying, I'm not saying go crazy, but if you really enjoy and look forward to Aunt Millie's scalloped potatoes, have some potatoes, because how many times a year are you having Aunt Millie's scalloped potatoes?
Right.
So my second recommendation is do not skip meals. How many times?
So I'm not supposed to starve before I go to the party?
No, because then you're going to get to the party hangry, and next thing you know, you've had half a dozen hors d'oeuvres and appetizers, and you don't even remember what you had before you actually go to have your meals. So, and actually, by skipping the meal, that actually causes you to overeat at the meal than if you were to actually have
Makes
breakfast
sense.
and lunch.
Are there any specific food that I should be having during the day before that big meal?
Or
Like
an hour
that,
before you
You know,
leave?
that would help me.
Yeah.
So, you know, some people will say, you know, try to fill up before you go to the meal so that you're not as hungry. But it's also that same idea of, well, just have your breakfast and lunch, have your usual routine, because then you're having a usual dinner.
And do you think that, I mean, I know in my case, a lot of times the dinners are so late. I mean, I don't eat at 8 o'clock at night. I just don't. I'm hungry at 5:36, so I normally eat at that time. So, but if your dinner is at 8, then maybe have a little protein,
Right.
like a little peanut butter and apple or something,
Exactly.
like a little protein and some carbs together that just tide you over before you eat that late dinner, so
Right.
that you're not hangry.
Exactly, exactly.
So as you talk, you brought some
Yeah, so.
some items here that we want to get to. So go ahead.
Okay, so one of the things I also wanted to talk about was actually saying that, you know, practice less is more. And by saying less is more is when you're going to a party or a meal, you know, choose something, or you can even bring something that is healthy to the table. So when you're getting to the party, you're not having to decide whether you want, you know, 3 types of potatoes or 6 types of
Cheese and
desserts,
crackers.
right? You know,
My downfall.
bring a healthy dish. And I, you know, brought a healthy dish that I could show that anyone can make very easily, requires very little ingredients, and very simple to make without making a whole lot of mess.
That looks like something I might make for,
Oh my
for
gosh,
Thanksgiving.
my
honestly.
house smelled so good when I made this morning. I said, I can't wait for Thanksgiving.
All right. So tell us what you got there.
So today I brought a mixture of some different vegetables that you can roast, and I've got Brussels sprouts, some butternut squash, and parsnips.
Parsnips.
Ah.
I
And
like parsnips.
can I tell you a really great story? When I started working here, I had parsnips for the first time at Potomac Cafe, and I fell in love.
Really?
And I love parsnips, so I decided to include them today. So in here, I just mix all my vegetables together.
Like sweet potato instead of?
Definitely. You could add sweet potatoes, you know, whatever vegetables that you love or your family loves, you can mix them in here. You can roast most any vegetable. Yes.
Okay.
So with this, I have some olive oil. I also use avocado oil. You can use that and you can use anywhere from 2 to 4 tablespoons depending on how much you're making and how much you would like your vegetables to be coated. So I'm going to just squeeze a little bit in here. And then I made my blend, but you can also make your own blend depending on what you enjoy. I put in some thyme, some dried basil, some rosemary to mix in, and then you can add salt and pepper to taste. So I'm just going to mix this in here.
So my daughter and I are always fighting. I try to be totally non-salt added. And she's like, Mom, you got to add the salt when you're baking and when you're cooking because it gives it that zest.
And you know, it actually really depends on the person. When you're adding salt and pepper, you know, maybe consider actually just trying to use a lot of different herbs and seasonings first, because you'll be amazed at how much that actually really seasons your food, even without the salt.
You know, I'm like you. I am not a salt person. I don't know what, but I was trying a new recipe and I added what they said, and I thought it was way too salty. So I think maybe just hold off on that.
Right.
I love a lot of pepper, so
Yeah,
I don't
so
add
do I.
I don't add a lot of pepper because a lot of people don't love it like I do. But I just say salt and pepper to your taste, and I'm just not adding it to things anymore. So
Especially because during the holidays, so many of the items already have so much salt in them.
Yeah.
There's no need for us to actually add any extra salt.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
And doesn't that look pretty
It's
already? And we
beautiful,
haven't even
yes.
roasted it yet.
I know, it looks very colorful.
I
Can we
definitely
get
want
a-
your recipe for this.
And the vegetables are great because they're also, in addition, a great source of fiber. They'll help you fill up a little bit better so that you're not having a lot of the refined sugars and added breads that we might not necessarily need. Yeah.
And then once we do that,
And all we do is we get a little sheet pan. You spread them out so that they're not overlapping
like a
and they're
cookie
even.
sheet pan or a Jello roll type pan? Or?
Yep, something like that. Just
Okay.
a shallow pan that you can lay them down in, and you roast it at 450 for about 30 minutes. And after about 15 minutes, you want to flip them over so that you can get that nice caramelized crust on the outside. I like mine extra crispy.
I
but
love the looks of those. Yeah, that looks
You know,
beautiful.
So do you cover it while you roast it? or
No, you leave it
just
open. It's completely open in the oven, and let them just do their thing in the oven.
Wow.
And you literally just flip it, you know, once or twice during the baking time, and then you get this really yummy roasted vegetable. It's low calorie, it's very nicely seasoned, and so easy.
Okay, we need to taste it.
Yes.
Yeah, go.
Oh, yummy.
So share. So also, and some other tips about, you know, watching the salt during holiday seasons is, you know, a lot of these entrees and dishes have sauces and gravies that we pour over everything, rather than pouring it all over our plate, maybe just making sure that you have a little bit of a side so that we can dip it and we're not using as much of that added salt as well.
I did too. Just
Right.
put a little, like even next to this, you could just put, if you had something, just a little pitcher, really, and people could
Right.
put just a little bit on the side, like you were saying. You didn't have
Exactly.
to put it over all the veggies.
Sometimes I do a
I'm going in for
balsamic
another
glaze
one.
on that too, if you want just
Oh,
a
that
little
would be-
bit of
yeah. Now,
extra
that would
flavor.
be after?
After, you can do a drizzle. Or some people also do balsamic vinegar while it's baking too. So really just play around with it a little bit, make it your own.
That's,
Yeah.
that's perfect.
I was thinking also some cut onions would be.
Yes, some red onions.
Yeah, that would be, I would love onions too.
Right.
You can
It's-
taste it
Oh,
yourself.
yeah, you can taste it too after one more.
And then another great tip is try to make, you know, you can't skip the turkey. So try to make protein that main feature on your plate, because the protein is also what my residents hear me say all the time is gets you the biggest bang for your buck.
Well, you know, as we age, we lose muscle mass.
Right.
So if we lose our appetite as we age normally, and then what you want is the really salty or the really sweet. So what you want to do is, just like you said, is you want to load up on the protein.
Right, right.
That's very important.
See, my girls have been trying to convince me to forget about the turkey. Let's do the stuffing and the sweet potatoes and, you know, the green beans.
They're good too, but
Nothing like that
And it doesn't have to be just turkey. If you can, plant proteins are excellent. There's so many ways that we can add them to our side dishes now, to our salads, as a main entree, and there's so many recipes out there now that are so delicious. I would definitely give them a try.
So, Helen, one thing, if you want us to remember when we go into this holiday seasons, what would it be?
Eat what you love with the people that you love.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Juanita?
I would say exercise as much as you can with the people that you love.
There you
Make
go.
it a family affair. Everybody goes plays. Everybody goes for a walk.
And I'm going to do the health thing.
Okay.
I think wash your hands with the people you love, right?
No soap fights, though. No soap
No
fights.
soap fight, but maybe a water fight. That would
Oh,
give you
yeah,
some
that sounds
exercise. So this has been great, and we're going to do it again in February because we always do the Wear Red to Work Day, which you got the kick.
I was thinking, you know, holidays, so I even got the earrings on. But
Oh, you
very
were
festive.
there you go.
There you go.
So thank you. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. And
Thanksgiving, everybody
yes,
here.
happy Thanksgiving. A healthy one.